I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
So we are Unity, and I became, now they call it woke. We used to just call it enlightened or whoa or whatever you want to call it. That happened to me when I was 21, and I headed to the mainland and moved in conveniently across the street from a religious science church. And religious science, also sometimes known as science of mind, is a very similar religion to us. I feel like it's kind of our sister religion. So all my life, I've either attended a Unity church or a Science of Mind church. And Science of Mind got tired of having to explain to people, no, we're not Scientology. So a few years ago, they decided to merge two of their divisions, and they decided it's time to rebrand. Let's pick a name of what we really are, and they chose Centers for Spiritual Living, which describes who they are. It's not the most exciting branding, in my opinion, but it is true, Centers for Spiritual Living. And my fantasy is someday maybe we'll just become Unity Centers for Spiritual Living, because we're really all respecting that infinite source. So I grew up on Maui, and I wanted to come back to Maui, and for decades I dreamed of coming home to Maui. And I found myself over on the Big Island, so I was close. I was one island away. And that was about 5 or 6 years ago. And I joined the Center for Spiritual Living in East Hawaii, which was down in the Puna district, which is kind of similar to like Paia or Haiku, lovely area. And the minister, one minister passed away and another lady was filling in, but we're really looking for somebody to come in and be our new leader. And by then I was Mr. Tech Geek, so I was broadcasting them and doing the broadcasts. And when COVID came along, it became more important to do those broadcasts. And during that time, Reverend Beverly Strutt dropped by and spoke to us a few times, and we said, ooh, we like her. Can we get her to stick around? And it worked out, and she became our new senior minister. And soon after that, I started getting that, I want to go to Maui thing again. And Reverend Bev, you know, she knew I was the tech guy, and if she had been a smaller person, I think she could have just tried to talk me into sticking around to help with the technology. But she supported who I really was. She held the highest watch for me when I couldn't believe it, when I was really going through some tough times with employment and the next direction. And she just kept telling me that my next path was already clear in the mind of God, and all I had to do was step into it. And so I love her. I'm grateful to her. And I was delighted that she was visiting Maui during this time that Reverend Blaine was on hiatus. So she's here today, and that was my incredibly long introduction from East Hawaii Center for Spiritual Living, the Reverend Beverly Strutt.
Thank you. Oh, good morning, good morning. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, we went through an incredible journey together, and everybody was telling me, what are you doing? He's going to leave. He's going to leave. And I went, that's my job. That's my job. My job is not to hold anybody where they are. In fact, if I can say one of my greatest successes is seeing Adam here today in the place where he loves to be, doing what he loves doing with all of you. Yes. And to be honest, I'm a fool. Seriously, you let somebody like Adam go, but you know, wherever we let something go, we open the space for something new to flow in, and that's where I hang my hat. I trust in that. I trust in the teaching that we teach, in the laws of nature that guide our full experience here. So, and I loved what we were singing about We Are Unlimited. I told you it was going to be absolutely perfect. No matter what we choose, it's going to be absolutely perfect. It's going to support my talk in every which way that I want. But I'm going to try and get back to my talk because there's some stuff in here that I really should share. But because otherwise, you know, we could just have a party. We could all just gather around, you know, just bring it on, and we could have a party and chat. But I'm going to stick with the script a little bit today. So I think you can tell by my voice that I wasn't born in Hawaii. In fact, I probably wasn't born in the United States at all, which is the truth. I come from what we call the southern part of England, South Africa. The very southern part of England, where we speak a different language, we don't stop for traffic lights, we halt for robots, whereas there's nothing on my schedule, but my schedule is packed. So these are all the ways that I grew up in the world, and eventually getting to the United States was very interesting, especially for my language. But I had the fortune. When I was growing up in South Africa, I lived on a farm. And my dad was not driving into church on a Sunday. He's like, I don't care. I've got to drive in for work. So at a very early age, I didn't get to go to church. But I was living on a farm. And so my church became, and my belief system got stuck beautifully, steeped beautifully in the laws of nature. We're talking about prosperity and circulation. Well, if you've ever hoed a field or irrigated by hand, as you pull the soil, it's coming in. You're making a space, it's coming in. So this is where I was grounded. And when I eventually did get to find out about science of mind decades later, I was like, oh, there are people that think the same way I do. Yay! Maybe I can connect with them. So I was fortunate that I was raised with that. No punishment, no damnation. Punishment from the parents, but not from God. No. God was not punishing. God was just giving. And I realized very early on that the wider I opened my heart and my arms, the greater that gift was going to be. Because nobody, and we know this, nobody can outgive God. So we might as well just go, yeah, thank you, bring it on, and receive as much as we can. So I learned that. And part of what I received was my travel experience. I got to travel extensively. I was a professional dancer. So I just traveled. I packed my bag and off I went to Europe, traveled around the world on a cruise ship. It was brilliant. Eventually landed up in San Diego. It wasn't too bad, huh? Pretty good. So that was one. I loved San Diego. It was magnificent, and that's where I found my first religious science church. It was still religious science at the time. Then, however, I met a boy, and as boys will do, they will change their minds about where they're living or why they need to live in San Diego or why they actually need to move to Phoenix. Yeah, kicking and screaming. Come on, Phoenix? If you ever want to go to hell on earth, there's where you want to go. 116 degrees. Seriously, they just came through it. This morning I spoke with him and he went, oh, it's a blissful 98. I'm like, what, are you kidding? I'm like, no. So I need to say, I'm here now. But there was a time after I moved to Phoenix where I was going back and forth from San Diego because I had a business in San Diego that I gave up to move. And so I was traveling backward and forward over and over again from Phoenix to San Diego. And if any of you have ever done that trip, the best way to do it is to go through Yuma. Another very, very warm place on this earth, even warmer than Phoenix. So what would happen is I would get up early in the morning, I'd drive through, get to Yuma right about noon, I'd stop, maybe have a cup of coffee, maybe something to eat, fill up the gas tank, go to San Diego. Same thing on the way back. Over and over and over again. So I started to build this relationship with Yuma. We were very happy, Yuma and I. I got everything I needed. Yuma got some cash. And we were perfectly, wonderfully happy in this relationship. It didn't have to change. It was very limited. I knew the main road, and that was about it. And then one day, I was invited to speak at Center for Spiritual Living in Yuma. So I had to leave that main road, and I had to go off the sidewalk all the way to the center that was there. And I had to meet the congregation. This isn't part of the relationship I wanted with humor. I was perfectly happy with the way things were. But now suddenly I was thrown into a possibility of having a greater relationship. Things were different. Things were coming my way. I had a choice of saying, I'm going to stick with the relationship I know. I like it. It's very limited. It asks nothing of me. Humor was maybe not wanting to change too much, but it didn't matter. I had to make a choice, and I did. I made the choice to stretch and release the limitations of the relationship I had with humor, allowing it to grow into something magnificent. The congregation was brilliant. Every time I spoke there, they were overjoyed. They'd always throw a potluck afterwards, and we'd all break bread, and it was a wonderful experience. And so that relationship with humor changed. It was no longer limited to my in and out and the basic needs that I wanted met and the basic needs it wanted met. And you will go, well, that's perfectly wonderful. Yay for humor. But it's the same in our personal relationships. And we're going to go into that. But before we do, I got to share a funny story I heard this morning. It's about celibacy. Anybody? It's about celibacy. I know Reverend Blaine just went, oh, here she goes. We had lunch yesterday, and he goes, I'm not sure if I need to leave you and Adam alone with the church. I might have to come and keep a watchful eye on both of you. Anyway, so celibacy. So we have Frank and Anne are at a weekend retreat discussing relationships with each other and with the people, being guided through this retreat. And the person that was leading the retreat, the lady, she stepped forward and she goes, it's extremely important to know and understand what your partner's needs and desires are and what their likes are. What are their favorite things? You've got to understand this to enhance your relationship. So she leans forward and she goes, gentlemen, do you know your wife's favorite flower? Frank got so excited. He was just beside himself. He's sitting next to Anne, and he grabs her knee, and he goes, I got this one. I know this. He leans in, and he whispers, it's gold medal all-purpose, right? There started the life of celibacy for Frank. We got to laugh about life. We got to laugh about relationships. So anyway, so let's get back to those relationships. So that wonderful boyfriend I was speaking about, when we moved to Phoenix, we got into a beautiful home that we inherited from his dad, and it was lovely. But things were not the way I would have chosen to be in a relationship. It was just not working for me. And of course, I wanted to blame him about it, of course. And unfortunately, I have to admit that it never really had anything to do with him. It was really all about me. But I was still hooked into this whole scenario of like, why is this not working? Why? What's going on here? What am I doing wrong? Yada, yada, yada. And what was happening for me is I would be going out, and when I'd come back in, I'd pull my car up in the driveway, and I'd sit there for a minute, and I'd go, I know exactly what I'm walking into. It's like, I know exactly what he's going to be doing. I know exactly what he hasn't done. Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. But I sat there and I knew exactly what my experience was going to be when I walked through those doors. And what do you think? Of course. Exactly. Every single time. I was never surprised once about this. Never, ever surprised. And Dr. Holmes, the founder of religious science or science of mind, he would always say that life is a mirror. It reflects back to the thinker what it thinks into it. Life is a mirror and reflects back to you what you think into it. No, this was not my fault. I was doing everything perfectly. This was not my fault. I was on. I was being perfect in the relationship in every way, of course. So how could it possibly be my thoughts creating this scenario that I didn't want? But remember, I was sitting in the car knowing exactly what I was going to see when I walked in the door. Yeah, but anyway, so what do we do as wonderful people in relationships when we hit a barrier like this? We go off to our best friend, and we go and discuss this with our best friend, because of course they're going to know how to fix it, right? Yeah. You know what I got? My friend Jeanette, her and her husband Tom, they'd had got similar things that happened to them, and she goes, you know, Bev, she was from South Africa as well, so she had the same accent. She goes, you know, Bev, you know, it's never going to change. You just got to accept it. It's just the way it is. Let's remember those words. You just have to accept it. It's never going to change. It's just the way it is. Yeah, that was definitely not going to work for me. Definitely not going to work for me. I was going to pack my bags. I was out of there in a hot mess. I was like, no, this is not going to work for me. So I left her and I decided maybe I should get a higher point of view. Maybe I should go visit a minister instead. Maybe I might get a little different perspective on this. So off I went. I went to see my minister at the time, because we went through a couple of ministers. I was at Center for Spiritual Living, a New Vision Center for Spiritual Living in Phoenix. Beautiful. If you ever get to Phoenix, go and visit them. They have a wonderful situation going on, and they're just inspiring. However, the minister I went to isn't there any longer. She got call-ins and moved on to a different area. Anyway, so I go in and see her. And of course, I'm just like, oh, yada, 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 all my problems, what's going on? And, you know, I don't know what to do with him, and it's all his fault. And she looks at me very easily, and she just goes, well, do you want to trash or transform? I'm like, really? Those are my options? She goes, yeah. Do you want to trash or transform? You get to choose whatever you want. Do you want to trash it? Baby out, bathwater, everything gone? And start fresh, completely somewhere else, somebody else, everything, you know, still you, remember, still you, but start fresh. Or do you want to transform this? Is there something in the relationship that you like and you want to transform this? She didn't give me a whole lot more, except she said to me, you got to take him out of the box. You got to take him out of the box. That was it. She was a little Yoda. She go, you know, knowledge you have, use it you must. I'm like, God dang it. You know, could you just give me a map? You know, a map with directions, practices, Hail Marys, even if I needed it. You know, I would do anything at that point just to try and figure this out. But she goes, nope. She goes, your knowledge you have, use it you must. She said nothing more about the box. So I went off and started thinking about the box. Now, I must be honest, I still to this day have no idea what she meant by the box, or what she meant by the box. But I created my own scenario. I went and started thinking about the box. What is this box? How does it work? What does it look like? How big is it? Is there windows in it? And what I got to realize as I started to create whatever I perceived as this box to be, I went back and started with the ego. Okay, not the ego, the prideful ego. No. I'm talking about the ego that's trying to keep us alive. The one that sees that beautiful furry animal and goes, tiger, not a putty tat. All right, cliff, not a street. This is the ego I'm speaking about. This is the ego that does keep us stuck often because it doesn't want us to have any change. Because it knows what it knows, and can keep us safe in that environment. The unknown is not the favorite thing of the ego, because the unknown, it can't keep us safe, right? So there's so much more I can say about the ego, but that's a whole nother talk. We'll do that another time. I'm going back to the box. So what the ego does is it creates boxes for us. So I'm going to give you an example. Any of you been to Six Flags Magic Mountain? All right? Any roller coaster ride, right? Okay. So you decide you're going to go off on a roller coaster ride or a day to Six Flags. The ego's going, oh, God, no. No, 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 no. This is the first time you're going. So the ego's never been there before. You're going to go where? You're going to do what? You're going to get into a little metal car with a strap that may or may not really hold you in, nothing on your head, and you're going to shoot yourself out into the sky. I don't think so. The ego's going, no, 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 this is not a good idea. Can you just stay home, cuddle into your bed, maybe a book? You know, the unknown words in a book, you're safe. No, no, no. You're going to strap yourself in and you're going to go round and round and round and round. So what the ego starts to do, it starts collecting information. And we think it's just us wanting to know what we're going to do, but it's actually the ego looking for all it can get and gather so that it can bring it all together and create this beautiful box of safety for you. So it knows when you're going to be there, how long you're going to stay, what rides you really think you want to go on the most, if it really has to go on a ride, what food are you going to eat, how is this going to be, how much is it going to be. It creates as much information as it can and puts it in this box, which you take with you to Six Flags. You have your experience at Six Flags, and whatever it is, if it's absolutely brilliant, or if it's mediocre, or if it's downright awful, all of that information goes back into that box and you take it home with you. You put it on the shelf. Now you're going back to Six Flags, 6 months, a year later. What does ego do? Takes the box off the shelf and wants you to take it with you. You're taking that box with you because it knows everything that's in that box. And that's the only way. So what can happen in a situation like that is that regardless of whatever you want to experience anew, if you've had a bad experience, the likelihood of you redoing that bad experience is very, very, very likely. Because the ego is going to insist on trying for you to have the same experience again. Now, if you've had a great experience and all your memories in that box are all great, and you take the box with you, and you're going to say, I'm assured of having another fantastic experience, but. Anybody heard of the word but? Everything that happens after the word but is probably the experience you're going to be having. Because we're claiming this stuff, right? Can you hear it? We're claiming it. We're accepting it. It's going to be that way. It's never going to change because we're taking the box. So this is what the box is about. Getting yourself out of the box. Getting the person out of the box. We don't want to keep our experience in that box. But we do it, the ego does it for us all the time. All the time. It can be in a restaurant. How many times are you with your partner or your favorite friend, and whenever you go to a restaurant, they walk in, they go, oh, I've never really had a great experience here. You, on the other hand, have always had a great experience there. Yeah. No. We should have just eaten at home, never gonna. What do you think their experience is going to be? Exactly what they've claimed. It happens with me and my boyfriend all the time. I walk in, I get the best dishes. Everything's wonderful, everything's great. Oh, it's so exciting. He's like, well, we should have eaten at home. You're a much better cook. We could have just eaten at home. I'm like, yeah. So one more time, it will be that experience that you've had that you take with you over and over and over again. But we need to change those experiences, and we can do that. And I'm going to read a little piece for you from Dr. Ken Gordon. He was a spiritual leader for Centers for Spiritual Living. He retired maybe 3 or 4 years ago now. He said this. He goes, we have to loosen up our consciousness. In other words, we've got to be willing to have a new experience in our life. Because if we're claiming the old experience over and over again, that's the only thing we're going to have. So he says, transformation demands that we actually think a different thought. Step outside the bonds and restraints of what we know to be true or what we have experienced in the past. Be able to step into possibilities or potentiality of something that can be there. To be able to stretch the boundaries that we have. To allow for a new experience and a new idea. If you keep thinking it's going to be the way it always was, then it will be that way it always was. It can't be any other way. But if you step into the idea that something could be different, that's transformation. And we like transformation because we don't have to let go of the things that we did like. We can transform the things that we don't care for. Dr. Holmes used to say, change your thinking, change your life. I mean, it's so simple. No. Oh, come on now. Come on. It's just simple. We just have a new idea, right? It's that easy. I mean, even the Buddha said, happiness does not depend on what you have or who you are. It solely relies on what you think. Dang. What we think. Every minute of every day. How many thoughts pass through your head in the last second? Yeah. What we think. Which ones are we going to hold on to? Which ones are the ones we're going to change? What tools do we have to actually do this? Do we have any tools? Yes, we do. So, of course, I had to go back to my minister because now I need tools. You know, I really do. I need tools. I need to know how I can walk through this. And she says to me, it's the power of your word. Yeah, she was Yoda. I got to tell you. She goes, you know, you'll always be right. Right, you will always be. She would always say these things in reverse. She was short too, but she didn't have the ears. But it was just like, okay, the power of the word. She said to me, never forget the power of your word. But remember, any change that you want to happen, you truly need to have the full desire of it. If you're saying it here, it's great, it's good, it's a great way to start with the affirmation. But if it doesn't move down into the heart space, it can never be absorbed by your body. And the embodiment of the change is what is necessary because the universe, God, creates in response to what we are. Not what we say. Not just what we believe, but who we have become. Yeah, that's the tricky part. How often you said, oh my goodness, I've been doing my affirmations. Nothing is shifting. Well, the shift has to happen in you first. It can't just be saying. You can't be just saying things and then saying but. Because what's after the but is what you really, truly believe. So we start with our affirmations. We talk about it. We get the power of our word. We start creating with those words. And then slowly it moves down into the body here. And you start to actually believe it. And then you see something shift, and that's easier. Once we see the shift, we're like, yeah, I can get on board now. I can get there. And then when we do it over and over again, now it just becomes who we are. And every time you walk into the restaurant, it's going to be brilliant because it can be no other way. Because your belief system has changed. Who you are has changed. But you have to choose it. That is the power. That is the one thing that was given to us that a lot of other animals don't have, a lot of other creation does not have, is the power of choice. We get to choose. And Dr. Holmes said, if you choose not to choose, you're still choosing. because you're still choosing not to choose. So we are always at choice. Every minute of every day, we are at choice. And I want to tell you that as I started watching my words, watching what I was saying to myself, pulling up outside my garage door, and as the self-talk wanted to start, I would stop it. I'd go, nope. There is a possibility for a different experience here. I truly don't know what the hell is going on inside that house. Why do I want to assume I know? I don't know what he's done all day. I have no idea. Why do I want to claim something I don't desire? That's insanity. So I used to change my thoughts. I would change my words. I would listen to my words. And it started to shift. Did he change? Probably not. But my perceptions changed. What I saw, what I allowed to be my experience, what I chose to be my experience, changed. And with that, everything changed. Everything changes. Now, the core person in all of us doesn't change, but how we interact with each other and the perceptions we have of each other sets us free to have a completely new experience, a new relationship, and a new way of walking in the world. It's very important. Because you know what? There's so much beauty, we don't want to toss it all out. So why is it important that we do this work for ourselves? Why is it important at all? Sure, we could just hang out. We could still be angry. We do it because we're here for the joy of life. We're here for the joy of God. We're here to be the best expression we can be. But more importantly, if we don't do it, the world does not change. So when we see things in the world that we would like to see differently, the change doesn't happen out there. The change happens in here. And we don't want to trash the world. There's too much beauty. There's way too many beautiful things in this world. We do not want to trash it. But would we like to transform some of it? I think there are some parts of the world and how things work in this world that we'd like to transform. Well, we have to start with us. We start transforming our world. And because we're so interconnected, as we spoke about in the prayer in the beginning, our interconnectedness of all life, as we change and our vibration changes, it cannot help but change the world around us. That's how we begin, by transforming the world. We believe in this unity of all life, and we also believe that we can envision a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through the resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics. This is what we desire, right? Can we know it? Can you change your box that we've held the world in? Can we say, oh, it's always that way, it's never going to change? Oh, yes, it can. By the power of our own words, we can change the world. And so when I say today, as I shift my perceptions, the world shifts in agreement. That's how we change the world, by shifting our perceptions, by the power of our word to do so. And there's one more little thing. It's called forgiveness. But that's another old talk. So we know that this is the way, and so my invitation for you always is to walk through this next couple of weeks being very aware of what it is you're telling yourself. What are you saying about people? If you hear your words go, oh, he always does this, he's always that way. She never, ever wants to think this way. She'll always be the same. Stop yourself and go, I can change that. That's my invitation to you. Thank you. So we're going to move into a little time of meditation where I'm going to give you an opportunity to take the words that I've spoken and maybe bring somebody into your thoughts who you would like to see differently in your life, who you would like to drop your perceptions, to release somebody from the box you have placed them in. So let's take a deep breath in, become comfortable, and just allow yourselves to settle in. You can close your eyes if you desire. Take a nice, beautiful, cleansing breath. And as you breathe out, just feel everything settle. Feel that nice, beautiful stability in your pelvis and the strength of your spine moving upwards so that everything else can just give way. And with a gentleness, just allow someone to come into your awareness. Someone gently who might be a little frustrating. Somebody you know a very deep love for. And as you see this person's face, allow your arms to open wide, your heart to open wide, and recognize in them the divine that is shining forth looking at you. And as you see the shine of God's light coming back at you, within there you can see there are no limitations. There are no limits to the wonderment of this person other than a perception you may have placed on them. So allow the feeling tone of your heart to stretch forward and wrap them up. Wrap them up and draw them in and go, I know the truth of you. You are not limited by me. And as you step back away from this person, recognize in yourself the freedom you feel. The freedom of no longer being restricted by your own thoughts. The freedom you no longer feel. You don't feel the restrictions of your perceptions, having to keep them firm and strong so that person stays who they are. Allow them to be the magnificence that they can possibly be, and in turn allow yourself the same. And we know that this is the truth. So right here, right now, I give grateful thanks for all that has been shared here today. All the words that have been spoken, all the words that have been received, all the beauty and joy and love and laughter that has been shared during this time that I have spent with you. And I know that it is good. And I know that as we walk forward during this week, that the blessings of the divine are pouring forth on us. And as we change our words and our perceptions, we see the world anew in its magnificence, in its glory, in its absolute brilliance. And so I call it good. So I just release this talk, this time, this prayer, and this meditation, knowing that it is good, knowing that it is blessed, knowing that it is in divine right timing and right order. For Spirit, for God has said yes. Yes, my beloveds, yes, it is done. And so I just release it knowing this is so. And we say, and so it is, and amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, now's the point in the service. Oh, one more time for Beverly Strutt. What a talk. Powerful. Oh, thank you. That affirmation. Today, as I shift my perceptions, the world shifts in agreement. That is powerful. Oh. And it triggered a memory of in one of the programs I was in, we used to joke around as I was, my, how you've changed since I did the work on myself. So this is the point in the service where we pass the hat or pass the basket. And if you find yourself in abundance, I mean, today was about abundance. Today was about the power we have to create and accept and transform. And that's, for me, that's when I know I'm abundant. That's when I feel prosperous, is when I remember that I'm not trapped by any circumstance, that I have the power to create my world. So if you currently find yourself in a place where you have some of those little green pieces of paper that we exchange with each other, those ones and zeros, we would welcome them as a contribution towards the abundance of this place. We come together on a Sunday to give you so much that we feel called to give. And if you feel called to give something to support this, then we would like to welcome that. And right now you can take whatever that gift is and hold it up, and we say a prayer together. And our offering is through let's say this together here. Through a grateful giving heart, my mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing infinite supply. I'm trying to see if I can remember the one that I'm so used to from over in CSL. Okay, that's good. That's not even the one I was thinking of. I was thinking about, as I open my hand to give, I open my heart to receive. So anyway, with all those, let's go ahead and we can pass the basket around and collect. And if you're online, there's many ways to give. You can click on the donate button on our website. You can also mail us a check, old school style, and actually send a check in the mail if that's how you do. So any way you feel called to contribute, we blessedly receive it. Thank you, Eleanor. Loving Spirit, we are thankful for these gifts that have come to us in love. We know the energy of prosperity and love is moving through this ministry, across this island, and out into the world. We see a world filled with love, prosperity, and peace. Thank you, loving Spirit. Thanks to all of you. All right, so we got a few announcements here. Let's see what's new and exciting and upcoming here at Unity. We have flowers, and today we have the generic flowers. Beg your pardon? Okay, but if anyone would like to ever donate flowers, there's a sign-up list by the back door. You can bring flowers. They'll be up here live on television, and then at the end of the service, you can take the flowers home and enjoy them all week long. So if you'd like to do that, please feel free to. We have another announcement, which is not the greatest news in the world. We've been telling you that Faith Rivera was coming, but her plans had changed. Not through no fault of her own, but some circumstances changed. So she won't be joining us in October, but Blaine says we do hope to have her out for a concert very soon, so we'll keep you posted on that. We have the Kundalini meditation and Shakti transmission. Prashanti leads that weekly class here all the time, and it's free, but, with donations always welcome. And that's every Tuesday right here at the center. Starts at 6 in the evening, goes to about 7:15. The sound bath meditation is coming back again with Carrie Sawyer. She's going to be here on Saturday the 14th, so that's a couple of weeks from now. It'll be from 4 to 5 here at the center. If you're young and flexible, you can bring a mat or a towel to lie on the floor, and if you're like the rest of us, you'll probably opt for a chair. So it's your call, whatever you're up to there. And we also have some activities outside the place. Mike Fleener is going to lead us on another hike. That's coming up on the 28th, Saturday the 28th, and that'll be from 3 to 6. We'll meet here, and Mike will take you on a walk, nice gentle walk to somewhere exciting as always. And I'd also like to mention that Mike Fleener was our volunteer of the month, and we kind of forgot to give him the ticker tape parade because I didn't have it on the schedule, but I'm sure when Blaine's back, we'll do him up right. So we do thank Mike Fleener and all the volunteers that help keep everything together here, open up in the morning and blow the leaves away and keep the sound and the lights going. So we thank Mike and we thank all the volunteers. And next week, Reverend Blaine is back in town. We got the boy fresh from 3 weeks hiatus, so he should be refreshed and revved up and ready to go. And his talk will be Rising from the Ashes and Into the Community. So that'll be here, same time, same channel, right here. And now we wrap this up. So we say our prayer of protection, and we'll sing the peace song together. So go ahead and stand up and settle into all that knowing that Rev Bev empowered you with, as together we say, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is.
Where I live, they're all raised